Have you guys heard about the immersive sim curse? Whenever an sim comes out and it gets reviewed, it gets panned by critics and, over time, gets seen as a lost gem ahead of its time. I don't know if Deficit is going to be seen as ahead of its time, but the bad news is the other half of the curse is about to take effect. Welcome to day 6 of the Steam Next Fest review. That's right, you get to watch my hair dry in real time, and I am freshly shaved. So, I hope you all enjoy this next review, which is Deficit. It was made by Item 42, another duo dev team. Deficit is a first-person shooter immersive sim offering a variety of solutions to the problems that you come across. I mean, it's not really listed as an immersive sim, but people on Twitter were calling it one, so I'm just going with that. And you know, that's just fine, because it's not like you get death threats for calling things immersive sims on Twitter. The idea of Deficit is actually pretty cool. You play as Carrie, a corporate spy for hire. You have to get into Hadrian's Wall, a high-security complex. You need to find out about Project Sidereal, the Interpolator, and a strange, large vehicle in Garage 42. If you get caught, you're on your own. I like the premise of Deficit. You can attempt to stealth through open areas, sneak up behind enemies to quickly disable them, in theory, and use automated defenses to eliminate enemies as well. One of the cooler things that I liked about the game are that there are 3D printers scattered around Hadrian's Wall. I know I mentioned 3D printers from yesterday's video, but now my new stupid hobby is going to take center stage in this video. Sorry. So, there are 3D printers scattered around the wall, and my stupid brain didn't understand how to use them at first. I found these spools of wires that kind of looked like 3D printer filament, but I couldn't figure out how to slot it into the printer. That's because you don't use regular printer filament, and the way this works kind of blew my mind, and I absolutely loved this idea for a video game. You have to find these cartridges that have the item you wish to craft and take it to the printer. The cartridges actually have just enough material inside of them to make the item you want, and then it prints your new tool to put in your limited belt of corporate espionage devices. And that's really neat. It made me keep my eyes open for cartridges that were just laying around, and the limited inventory space also made me determine if it was worth dropping a damaged item or a cartridge. It's a really cool feature that ties into the limited inventory. Speaking of, you only have 3 inventory slots, and one of them is taken up by your fist. You cannot stack items either, so it's a constant juggle between things you might need down the road and things you do need right now. It's a neat game of chance that you need to play. A good example of this is when I found a cartridge for a UV grenade. I hadn't come across enemies that were weak to UV yet, but it was hidden and in a weird spot, so I decided to keep it on me, and it was worth it. Another cool thing about this game is that melee combat seems to be the king in it. Picking up a wrench or a hammer and swinging it into the face of a corporate goon is the main way that you're going to fight. Firearms are around, but there's no reloading them. When you're out of ammo, you're out, and you need to ditch that firearm for your fists or screwdrivers. The game informs you that piercing items like screwdrivers are actually a way to quickly dispose of enemies if you sneak up behind them, but you know what? We'll hold off on that until I get to the end of the things I liked, which is swiftly coming to an end. And I like how you can see how shiny my cheek is because of the aftershave. That's probably good. Another cool bit about the game is actually the portal gun that you pick up called the Interpolator. I thought it was going to be just like that game, Portal, but it actually ended up being way cooler than that. When you go through the portal, you step into an alternate reality where this strange fungus has taken over the humans that were left there. Bullets and regular melee actually do kill these humans that have been taken over by the fungus, but there are strange creatures that live there that need UV to die. This is where the UV grenade that I mentioned earlier really came in handy. When you leave the exit portal of the side reality, you see that the fungus has actually started taking over the normal world. It's spreading and infecting the area around it, which is a neat little detail. I haven't talked about the guns in the game yet, but they are actually very deadly in the game. Not so much to carry, which is nice because it does make the game a bit more bearable when you're playing it. Trust me, it would be really frustrating if she died as fast as the NPCs do to guns, which NPCs go down in a single shot or even 2 shots, no matter what firearm you're using. With the limited ammo in the pistol that you find, it's making sure that you really don't waste your shots. The other weapons that you print at the 3D printer are fairly deadly too. Shock grenades usually kill in 1 hit, trip mines, of course, 1 hit, shock mines, all of that stuff. They're very, very effective, for the most part, I guess. Finally, the puzzles involving portable batteries are really cool, and there was even a point near the end of the demo where I chose to drop a portable battery in case I came across a better item, and it made the next puzzle harder, which was really cool. It goes back to that risk versus reward thing that I mentioned earlier. The ending of the demo is great, by the way. It's dramatic, mysterious, and makes me really want to see what happens to Carrie after the title screen dropped. It also kind of made me forgive the rest of the demo, because, that's the issue. The rest of the demo I mentioned. So this is something I talked about with Ferocious, but this is another one of those really, really long demos. I read it on the dev team's Twitter that it was 2 hours, but it looks like I technically managed to beat it under that. The issue isn't actually the length of the demo, it's actually how clunky the nature of the demo is. It made it feel longer than 2 hours. I know I've talked about in games how characters move fast and how they're agile, and that's more of a personal preference, but that's not really what the problem is here in Deficit. The problem is that Carrie feels really floaty when she's moving around. When you're sprinting and you turn, it's like you're drifting into the turn. Running in general feels less impactful because of this, and even when she hits an enemy in combat, it doesn't feel solid, which is weird because it seems like this game has everything in it to make it feel solid and visceral. Every attack hits heavy. Your attacks thud in a satisfying way against an NPC's head or body, and there's even like this splash effect that happens when you hit them, but it still doesn't feel like you are. I think part of the problem is that it's very hard to tell when an NPC is unconscious or dead. A death blow feels less heavy than a regular blow, which is a problem. So I found myself overswinging at enemies constantly. Their vocoder doesn't help either because they're yapping throughout combat, and they continue to yap as they're falling over. Combat itself is also a little clunky. It's like the cooldown between your regular attacks are just a little too long. Like when I kick as Carrie, I can't start swinging with my main weapon even when her leg has left the screen, which usually means, hey, it's time to attack. The opposite also applies when you swing with your main weapon and then lead into a kick. There's a very distinct period of time between when you can actually attack again, and it feels weird. Stealth is also kind of rough. Enemies seem way too aware of you, even if you enter into a room while sneaking. One of the open areas with multiple solutions was really frustrating as I was sneaking up behind a guy with a screwdriver, and before I could even get into melee range, he knew I was there. It happened a second time in the same area, except this was worse because the guy had a gun that I needed to use to destroy the robot. Speaking of, the robots are also either pushovers or heavier than an actual tank. Sometimes they went down at the edge of an electric grenade, other times it takes 2 to 3 direct hits with grenades to kill them. There was a bit when I programmed a turret to shoot at the robots, and the turret would shoot between their legs instead of like their main body / head. With firearms being dangerous to enemies, they do have a unique and specific strategy to stop from dying to them, and it's the fact that they block. That's not a joke, by the way. If an enemy NPC holds up an item, one second, I have something I can demonstrate with. That's not a joke. If an enemy holds up an item like this, they're able to block all of your bullets. It's either that or they take like heavily reduced damage. I only found out about this after I was shooting at a guy that was holding up a brick like that, and even though I was clearly aiming at his head, dust was flying off the brick like I was shooting it. Did I just like discover what the new lightsaber is going to be at D23 or whatever that Disney convention is called? Shadow, Jaxto, and the brick lightsaber. I hate my life. So the other issue with melee combat is that I couldn't tell when enemies were stunned by my block or if they were continuing their combos. Multiple times I'd see them recoil after they hit my block, I'd put down my fists, and then immediately get clocked in the side of the head as they continued their really wide swing from a combo. So death is also a bit frustrating as well. I died 4 times. I think, with the first time being an environmental death to a falling pipe. The annoying part about it was that when I reloaded, I stopped for a second to see if I could tell how the pipe fell or if there were any warning signs. In my head, I was like, I just didn't learn what to look for in the environment to avoid those pitfalls. The pipe falls by itself. Like, there's no warning or anything like that. It just falls. It felt like this was a trap for players instead of something I could learn and understand what I need to avoid in the environment of the game. Maybe the pipe could be a slightly different color to at least warn players, or have steam coming up from it, or even have one of the ends dislodged. Another suggestion is to have the far side of the pipe dislodged first, only a little bit, so it gives the player time to get off it, or allowing for a quick sprint where they rush towards the end of that pipe. But as it's implemented now, it's just kind of a cheap trick. The really annoying part, however, is that it happens a second time in the demo, and I thought they had just done the same thing over again, which was really frustrating, but this time, it has to happen for the story to continue, and it's how the demo ends. Another death in another area involved turning on a network switch to open a door. I went through the entire area, killed all the guards, destroyed all the robots, even reprogrammed the turrets, and then decided to explore. I came across a deployable ladder. I couldn't figure out how to disable the trip mine, so I backed up what seemed like it would be far enough and picked it up, only to die to an explosion. And then I had to redo the entire area all over again. You can't save either, so you're forced to rely on these checkpoints, and that made me really frustrated. So I went through the entire area again, and when I opened the doors, two of the tankiest robots I have ever fought came through. Remembering my previous death, I didn't want to restart the entire area again, so I spent nearly 10 minutes wasting all of my resources, all of my printable cartridges, trying to kill these robots, only to kill one of them for some reason. With nothing left, I just ran to the door and went through, and it turns out that's where the level ends. I was supposed to know that I had to run past them. Finally, there's a part that introduces the SMG and an open combat area. One comment here that felt a bit weird was the contractor telling you to stock up, but you only have 3 inventory slots. You can't really stock up on anything. Like I mentioned, it's a wide open combat area, so I ran in and started fighting through it, carefully picking off enemies and using as much cover as possible. At first, I was able to pick up weapons NPCs dropped, but it seems like when they fall in a grassy area, you can't pick them up. Like, the game just thinks they're gone. This is another issue that I started to notice about the game as I got further into the demo. I'd pick something up, like say a battery from a computer station, it would replace the item I had in my inventory, and then that item was gone. Which is really frustrating when it's a UV item that you have to use to fight the weird fungus creatures in that side reality. Finally, at the end of the combat area, I died again, and I quit the game. Because it was 5 minutes of clunky combat where NPCs absorb bullets just by holding up a hammer, and they kept blocking with a crowbar, or they'd rush towards. I just wanted to leave it there. I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I booted it back up, but the combat in this game really needs a tweak, especially for that area. Melee enemies blocking bullets just feels weird. Thankfully, I had apparently gotten to a checkpoint where I died, so I respawned there and was able to work my way up to the research area. This is just kind of like a side note, but apparently the taser is completely useless. I found one and went to shoot a robot that was flying by, figuring, robots would be weak to it, but it looks like the taser is a melee range weapon. I had dropped my SMG just to test out the taser, but I couldn't find it, so I reloaded just to make sure I got my SMG back and ran right past that taser. Oh, also, Carrie's got a bit of a weak throwing arm. Maybe boost it up a little bit so it doesn't feel like I'm constantly about to get hit by my own electric grenades. I don't know, man. It sounds like I'm really railing on this game, but there is a lot of good with deficit. Some of the frustrating mechanics, I hope, will get some polish. There's no release date for it, so chances are high that the developers know about these issues and will resolve them. I think I think I'm going to be keeping an eye on Deficit, yeah. I want to see where it goes from here. I want to see how it improves. I want to see Carrie's adventure. I want to see how it ends, if her mission is successful or not. Like I said, the ending of the demo really sold me on this game. I want to find out what's happening in this facility. However, that has been my review of the Deficit demo. It looks like it has a long road ahead, but hopefully at the end of that long development road, Item 42 has a really good game waiting for us. If you've enjoyed the video and you're new here, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, click the like button, leave a comment, do any sort of impression. It helps out quite a bit. I will be back tomorrow with another Steam Next Fest review, so until tomorrow, take it easy and have a wonderful day.